So, what did I just watch?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Yeah. Um, so if anybody can't tell what that background is behind Kyle, we're talking Fantastic Four today, but
Yeah,
it's probably not the one that you think it is.
right. We're not going to the 2005 Fantastic Four. We're going back even further to the 1994 Fantastic Four.
And and if you're like me, before today, you probably didn't even I mean, I knew that it existed, but you probably hadn't watched it. And
Mhm.
I watched it, and man, I don't know some of what I just saw, but
Let me rewind a little bit to 1994.
mm-hmm,
Do you remember Comic Scene, that magazine that was
mm-hmm,
in the shelves? So that magazine, that Wizard, all of those magazines at the time really pushed this movie. There was always
mm,
pictures from the movie in there, like a shot of, the Thing or Doctor Doom or something in costume. And they were really pushing this. This is going to be the first really big Marvel movie. This is a huge deal. It's coming out. And you had your doubts, not because of what the pictures you saw, but you saw the name Roger Corman attached to it. Roger Corman he was a notorious B filmmaker. He makes movies on the cheap. The idea was, hey, Star Wars is a hit. Let's make our own Star Wars version and, do it on a really low budget. That's where Battle Beyond the Stars comes from, or Star Raiders, or these types of movies that were out back in those days. It
yep,
was so seeing his name attached to it, I'm like, okay, is this him trying to really go all in on a big budget Hollywood picture? And that's really kind
mm-hmm,
of what Wizard and Comic Scene were selling at that time. They're like, this is it. This is the big one. At the time, you have to remember James Cameron, of Avatar and Titanic
Titanic, yep,
was talking about making Spider-Man at this time. He
mm-hmm,
was going to do a Spider-Man film. He was talking Venom as the villain. All this stuff was going on. So I think that gave Marvel a little bit of cold feet on the Fantastic Four film
mm,
because, Cameron's a big filmmaker. He's going to do something
mm-hmm,
huge. It's going to be a big deal, a lot of detail, all this stuff. Corman, not so much. So, that I think there was this disconnect at some point by the time the film was finished that it never got released. And that was intentional because Avi Arad, I don't know if you remember Avi Arad, he kind of
Oh my God, yeah. I mean, Spider-Man, X-Men animated series. You always saw his name attached to
Yep.
all those.
Because he had started Marvel Studios at this time. He
Mm-hmm.
was the reason it didn't get released. He said no, he wanted to buy it. He bought the negatives and everything and just destroyed them. But
Mm,
somehow someone got their hands on something that released it as that VHS bootleg that just started circulating and still exists to
love
this
it.
day. So that is kind of the background of that. But Marvel for a long time said this movie was never intended for release. They had said that this movie was just made just to see if we could make something. And none of the people that worked on the film said that was true. And that they
Yeah.
finally did confirm that. Avi Arad did confirm that that was not true and that it was intended to be released, but because it was so bad.
I was gonna say, I mean, like I mean, like maybe nowadays, like with YouTube and like personal like film production, could you justify something like that? But
Right.
why would a major studio trying to get off the ground, like with Marvel, would you spend the money and the time to, you know,
Sure.
pretend you were making a movie?
Right. Especially at this point, because they had
Hmm.
they had released what, The Punisher around
Hmm.
89 and that Captain America in 1990 that were,
Hmm.
nothing
Yeah.
special. Um,
It's kind of ironic too because at the time, I mean, like nowadays, like, and it could be shifting again because of Superman, but
mhm.
for the longest time we've had like kind of Marvel calling the shots when it came to
Yep.
like the film world for like the
Sure.
last almost 2 decades.
Mhm.
But like at the time that this came out, I mean, DC was kind of more on top. I mean, they had a
Yes.
couple of Batman movies under their
Yep.
belts,
Yep.
and I mean they had the Superman movie that hadn't
Mhm.
that didn't see the light of day either, but that was getting talked about I think by Joel Schumacher at the time.
Yes. Yes.
So,
The Superman Lives, right? The
mhm,
That Tim Burton was going to direct. Yeah, that was
yeah,
that. There's footage out there you can see of Nicolas Cage wearing the Superman costume they were planning to wear
mhm,
at that. So it was there and it was going to happen. But DC, they still stuck with some of the lower end things during that period, but they were
mhm,
doing well with everything they had. Batman
yeah,
was successful for sure. But by
Hmm.
the time the end of the 90s hit, it kind of, fizzled because, Return or Batman and Robin didn't do as well. And they figured let's give it a little break.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
it's, and that's when Marvel took off with Blade and
I was about to say,
Spider-Man.
like, I mean, it's very odd that this and Blade, which were 5 years apart,
Mhm.
had such a like visual and tonal, like
Yeah.
starkly different. Like this movie feels like it was filmed in the 80s, even though it
Oh,
was
for sure.
1984.
It feel
And
yeah, it feels like it was filmed for TV.
yeah,
It feels like it was going to be one of those TV movies, like
yeah,
because at the time, if you remember, there was like the Nick Fury movie that came out around that time with David
yeah,
Hasselhoff. There
yeah.
was was it Mute Generation X?
Tax
They did that.
Generation. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oof.
So Marvel wasn't doing so great before Blade. It
It's
took Blade to really take them.
it's ironic. I mean, they had some great animated products coming out
Oh
at the
yeah,
time as
for
well,
sure, for
and it
sure.
was I think they kind of just didn't know what direction they wanted to 100% go in, and they were kind of just throwing all the darts at the wall to see what stuck.
I agree. And I know
Hmm.
Fantastic Four was always one that was in the burner
Hmm.
because I remember Chris Columbus was
Hmm.
supposed to do one, Chris Columbus of Harry Potter and Home Alone fame
Yeah.
was supposed to direct one before it finally fell into Tim Story, who did the 2005 version and the
Hmm.
sequel to that. Um,
Yeah.
so and there is, if anybody's really interested in really diving deep in this 1994 Corman movie, there's a great documentary out there called Doomed, and it is fascinating. It talks to all the people that worked on that and tells about the entire story of that production. And you learn like there was no rehearsal for this movie, like no rehearsal. Sue Storm, the woman who played that, she said there was no rehearsal before they came in. There was hardly any when they were filming. So it was really just like guerrilla filmmaking. Let's shoot
Yeah.
and keep moving, shoot, keep moving. So
Yeah.
that was, and the thing was too, is the company that owned the rights, Constantine Films, I believe was their name.
Yeah. Yeah. Constantin, and then
Yeah.
yeah.
They held the rights, and if they did not start a movie or shoot a movie before December 31st, 1993 or whatever it was, they were going to lose the rights. So they started 2 days before that, like December 28th, they started
Oh my
shooting
God.
this movie so that they didn't lose the rights. Um, that was, so obviously they really weren't prepared. They just, they were trying to get something done just so that they had that they secured the rights to keep being able to make
Mhm.
movies even past this movie's,
Yeah.
so this movie was really made to just, I guess just to secure the ability to continue making these films. And they did the 2005 version. They did the sequel and they did that 2015 one, I believe, right? The Josh Trank one. Uh,
I don't remember if that was 2015 or 2012, but I think
Maybe
the
2012.
the I
Yeah.
think the reasoning behind those a lot of the time was the same thing. Like if they didn't keep using them, they were going to lose
Yep.
them. And I think Disney and Marvel were really ramping up to start like taking these things back. So they were like
Yes.
probably like saying like, "All right, you done yet? You done yet?" And they're
Yep.
like, "No, we've got more."
Yeah. Yeah. After that
So
last one flopped really bad, really, really
yeah,
bad.
then and then
Fox was like, "We're done with it. Here you
yeah,
go."
and I
Cancel.
mean they were already like kind of either losing or selling the rights. I mean they'd sold off like Daredevil, and the
Yep.
Netflix stuff was starting to get like made,
Yep.
and
Hmm.
um I mean we weren't at the end of the X-Men stuff yet, but we were definitely getting closer to it.
Yep. Yep.
Um, so I mean, fly by night operation aside, rush creation job. What do you think is the major reason that we would call this one controversial?
I think the controversy really falls in the just the way in which I guess because to me I feel like they handled the characters well. I really like the Johnny Storm in this one, Jay Underwood. I really
Mhm.
enjoyed his portrayal of it. I liked Doctor Doom a lot in this one. I thought he did a really great job, really chewing the scenery. The costume was
Oh
great.
my
All
God.
that stuff was great.
The
I think
the very like they like there was one shot they just like held on him for like a good 30 seconds
Mhm.
as he's just maniacally laughing sitting in
Yes.
the chair, and I'm
Yep.
like, is this real?
Yeah. It's
Yep.
that moment. Yeah, I love that moment there. It's really it's great. And I think the guy really had a blast playing that part. That it seems
Yeah.
that he really enjoyed doing Doctor Doom.
But you know what? I can forgive that slash enjoy that. But then when you get and you correct me because I don't know if they like go 100% like and I could have missed it. But I'm like watching as like what I imagine are the moloids coming up to
They're
take
supposed to be.
okay, take
They
Alicia
couldn't
Masters to
secure the rights to Mole Man, so they
yeah,
made him the jeweler, and then all those little weirdos that are running
yeah,
around.
yeah. Yeah. So that's what I thought it was. I'm like, because they barely even said who he was. They were just like, oh, the
Mhm.
little guy who's doing this or that. And I'm
Right.
like, okay. And then they like come up and take Alicia Masters, and I'm just like, is this the Phantom of the Opera? Like
Hmm.
what's going on here? You
Right.
know, stealing her to be his bride against her will,
Hmm.
and and all his scenes that he's in, like those were tonally different than the rest of the movie because it felt like very like almost theatrical.
Yes,
You know,
very much so.
I half expected like Andrew Lloyd Webber music to start playing in the
Right.
background, and I'm like,
Do, 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 and he's like,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
oh.
Because I'm like, here we are with the Fantastic Four. They just survived their crash,
Hmm.
and we cut to that. I don't want to harp on it too much, but I was just like, what's going on here?
Hmm.
So
I
because
think
at least some of the other stuff like served the either the Doom stuff or the family stuff.
right.
Yeah,
I would say some of the controversy in this one is, I guess, if you look at the way, like, all right, so in the beginning they introduce Reed Richards as a college student. He's living in the Storm's house as a board. It's a boarding house. So
I I
Sue,
I, I really hope you're going where I think you're going.
yeah, I am. So Johnny and Sue are really young. They're young kids. I mean, I would say Sue is probably what, like maybe 11, 12 years old, somewhere in there.
She's old enough to think that when Reed walks by that he's dreaming.
Right, he's dreaming. So she's got, tween, early teens there.
Yeah.
And he gives her a kiss on the cheek, which I thought was a little strange. Um,
Again, not very mid 90s from when I
no,
remember living through it.
no, yeah, it just seemed like if I was living in a boarding house, no matter how if I was hanging out with the kids and playing video games with them or whatever it was, I don't think I'd ever kiss one on the cheek or anything like that. It'd be a little
Especially the
too,
the 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 opposite sex child. Not
certainly,
that not that it's
certainly,
better if it's a boy, but like there are there can be implications drawn from that.
of course. So yeah, and then when she's older and they get together, it's like it seemed like were you grooming her? I don't know, Reed, what was going on there, buddy? What did
Mhm.
we miss, and
Mhm.
what did we not see in that
Yeah,
behind
I mean
behind the
the
curtain there?
only and besides the kiss, which I mean, I'm not saying don't think about it because I mean,
Right.
in 1980s France, I mean, I'm sure that was
Mhm.
happening every which way, and it
Sure.
wasn't considered anything.
Hmm.
But if you pretend not to notice the kiss, I really didn't see anything else in their interactions that made it seem like he
Right.
was doing anything. I
Right.
think that
Right.
I'm sure it was meant to be innocent,
Hmm.
but either way, his intention versus her reception may still have informed their relationship. Like, hey, I'm gonna agree to go on this spaceship because I'm head over heels for this guy that lived in my house all these years.
Right. Yeah. I'm still obsessed with him.
God forbid that like I might get bombarded with gamma rays and become an invisible person.
Right. Right.
Not that that's an atypical thing, but even still, maybe I'm flying in the spaceship and it explodes and we go into the vacuum of space, like something more plausible.
Right.
And I think Ben Grimm even pointed it out too. He's like, what do these guys know about astrophysics?
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
So
You're right. Yeah, she really, like, they didn't establish them in the comics. She was a scientist. She was smart. She had, that. Johnny was, he was the hot rod fast, that sort of kid, and she brought him along because it was her brother.
yeah,
And Ben was the muscle, he
pilot.
protected Reed. Um,
Yeah, but also he was the pilot.
yeah, he was the pilot, right. So they all had some role in there, but when in this movie, she didn't really have any reason to be on there, neither did Johnny.
She
Um,
was Reed's love interest. That was
that
her
was it.
role.
Yep, that was 100% it. And at least in the 2005 version, they gave her more substance than they did in this
So
version.
I'm gonna 100% own up to something, which working at a comic book store, maybe some people wouldn't be able to guess. I do have a small gap of knowledge in a couple of Marvel movies in that time period,
Mhm.
and before I watched this, I've technically never seen a Fantastic Four movie.
Okay.
I have not watched the two with Jessica Alba or the one with Michael B. Jordan. I think before we discussed watching this, I was like, oh, wow, the Pedro Pascal one's gonna be my first one, huh?
It's kind of interesting. Yeah. That.
Yeah.
And,
I think at the time, my Marvel focuses were very narrow. It was like
mhm.
X-Men, Wolverine, Spider-Man, and they had given me and were continuing to give me those movies, so I was like, cool.
Yep.
And then by the time I think I started to give them a shot with Iron Man 2008, so there's like a gap of like those three Fantastic Fours and maybe the Eric Bana Hulk
Yep.
that I haven't seen.
Okay.
That might be something to
Oh,
talk about in the future.
we will hit that one for sure. The Eric Bana
Yeah.
Hulk is a great one to talk about for sure.
Is it? All right. Yeah, I mean,
Oh,
I watched
oh, it is.
Ghost Riders.
Yes, those are the
Those I enjoyed.
pre-MCU. You could hit these things like crazy for the controversy behind them. Not that the movies themselves are, but they really were off the wall. Just really off the wall compared to what you expected from the comics and things like that. Not that I expect these things to be exactly like the comics. I know they're going to change things, and I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
But when you go in completely different directions, that's where your controversy comes up. And a lot of those movies did that. They went in
I
directions.
got I got a good one for you too, and I don't know if there's a particular controversy surrounding it, but I gotta wonder why they never took it off the ground. Pride of the X-Men. How about that one?
Oh, that the animated episode, right? Yeah. Fantastic episode, by the way.
Hmm.
A wonderful pilot. And I cannot believe that didn't get picked up for a series.
I mean, my only theory is the world just couldn't handle Australian Wolverine.
Yeah, you're probably right. And oddly enough, it took them what another 12 years to finally get that right, or however many years it was from there when we got Hugh Jackman. Though he didn't do
Yep.
his Australian accent, but he
I mean,
was.
I liked the one that was in the animated series. He
Mhm.
felt pretty comic and vocally
Yes,
accurate.
absolutely. I would agree with that.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think I spent a good stretch of my childhood after those shows. Like as I'd read the comics, I was hearing his voice in my head.
Yeah. Now, with so Fantastic Four, the interesting thing about
Mhm.
them is they're the original Marvel family, like the
The
comics that
first
we know
family.
of Marvel. They in 1962 they were the first comic book that launched the Marvel
Hmm.
brand that we're familiar with,
Yep.
and it's always been the most difficult one to figure out how to make a movie about or a show for that matter.
Hmm.
The shows have always been sort of off. Like I remember the one in the 70s I grew up watching with Herbie the Robot. I was,
Uh-huh.
that's what really introduced me to Fantastic Four. And from there, I actually got into it. I read the comics for several years because of that.
Yep.
And then we got the one, there was one in the 60s, which was decent. And then there was one in the 90s it was good, but it was a little like it got a little like like teenagery. They
It
made it more hip hoppy and this and that, which was
it
kind of
was that one was tough because X-Men and Spider-Man kind of overshadowed
yes,
those other animated shows.
for sure.
And then on top of that, that one had the weird dynamic of like they they were making Namor be a lot like Pepe Le Pew, in that like he was always
Yes.
coming on to Sue Storm,
Sue, yeah,
regardless of his
yep.
relationships in Atlantis or the fact that she was married.
Right. Yeah, they had the what's his name from was it Brian Austin Green from 90210 was the voice of Johnny Storm.
Oh, was
So
he
he was
nice?
so he was always pushing like the music and all that stuff. So you'd see if you see certain episodes, Johnny was always doing that kind of thing, and which
Yeah.
never felt right. It always felt it was like, why are we pushing this?
Mm.
But yeah, Fantastic Four has always had a rough time getting itself the right footing to tell the stories that they need to do, which I'm hoping First Steps, gets finally gives us the Fantastic Four that we deserve, that we've been hoping to see for decades at this point. But
Yeah.
the Corman one, I really feel was able to capture the characters very well. As I mentioned, I really liked the Johnny Storm in here. I like this version better than the Chris Evans one in the
Okay.
2005 because he felt more of a hothead. Like where Chris
Yeah.
Evans didn't he didn't feel he kind of like he's still kind of his Captain America esque way, so he's not as
It's weird. It's
yeah.
weird. I think it took two movies of Human Torch and a handful of Captain America movies before he learned how to land that role in Deadpool Wolverine. Like,
Right.
if he
Yes.
had played it in
That's
that the way he played
yes.
it, that like he should have played it that way there.
100%. When he played it in Deadpool and Wolverine, that's the way Johnny Storm should be. And
Yeah,
that's how Jay Underwood wasn't quite that way, but he was closer to that
closer. Yeah,
than Chris Evans played in the other two movies. Um, I thought, like I said, I liked Doctor Doom. I liked Sue Storm. I wish they did more with her. She was just so flat. I feel bad for the actress. She didn't really get to do much. Reed had some potential to
yeah,
what he did. And Ben Grimm and Thing was interesting. That was a thing too. That Thing suit, they spent all the money on that for this
yeah,
movie.
yeah.
That's where they gave him a couple $1,000,000 and they spent most of it on that suit, and the rest went to
Jeez,
whatever they could afford after that.
no wonder. No wonder why everything else was very,
Yes.
again, very much didn't feel like it was of the time.
Oh yeah, because you like
I
when like Johnny Storm is shooting the fire off his hand, it looks like that that dude just drew that right on there. It just looks
Yeah,
so goofy. But they were
and they couldn't
supposed
come
to
up with a
replace
way
it.
for him to like be like totally engulfed,
Right.
without hurting the guy.
Right. They
Yeah,
probably would have had to really throw fire on him and be like, "Here you go.
yeah,
Just we'll put you out before you melt."
totally. Um,
But
what
but
was I gonna say too?
they were supposed to put CGI in there. They just didn't get to it. They had just what they could have, put in at that time. They were supposed to change the effects before the release, but there
Right.
was no release. And same with if you really listen to like the way Thing talks, you can't really hear or understand a lot of the words he says. They
Yeah.
did not ADR him at all. They were gonna loop his stuff afterwards, but
Yeah,
when
the dubbing. I would
yeah,
imagine they would have dubbed him.
when they pulled the plug on the release, they just didn't bother.
No
They
reason to.
yeah, they just left it as was. So it was kind of like, mm,
I did notice that they kind of they tried to do something that, I mean, and I haven't seen First Steps yet, but what First Steps is trying to do, where I think they're trying to, you know, have the big threat, but also introduce some of the smaller threats, even like if it's just in montage form.
hmm
It seemed like this movie tried to include multiple villains,
hmm
and for better for worse, they seem to work. I mean, like, not necessarily like they didn't work together, but they worked in spacing them out through the film.
yes, agreed.
So,
Yep.
and that sometimes is a hard task in some of these superhero films, like trying to juggle multiple villains. I mean, was what the reason people complained about Amazing Spider-Man 2 was.
hmm
But then in Superman, we just got, big monsters. You got
Yeah,
Luthor, you got Ultraman. Like, there's a way to do it right, and there's a
there
way to
is.
do it wrong.
There is. You don't need like I think a lot of times they feel like every character needs to have this backstory and all this. You don't need it. Sometimes these characters just can be just there. And if they're just doing something that's moving the plot forward, it's enough for us to accept this as a character and to, just watch it do what he does in the movie.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I felt like a lot of what they did with the villains in there, like with again referring back to the new Superman, we didn't have to go all the way back to who Lex was and the conflict he had with Superman.
Nope.
We saw enough of it in the actions that he performed during the film that we're like, I don't need to go back
Well,
and see.
and even by the end, like, you don't have to know how they like. Well, he actually said in the movie that it was their first time meeting in this universe. Like
Hmm
when Superman crashes through his thing looking for crypto, it's like, oh, nice
hmm
to meet you. But
Yep.
like at the end, he as they're like sort of pseudo fighting, he's fighting through Ultraman. He tells them like, yeah, I'm envious. Yeah, I'm this. Yeah, I'm that. Like, he gives you all the reasons you need, and you don't need to start the movie that way. You got there through a
Exactly.
progression.
hmm Now,
And I mean, I think that was sort of the case with the Corman stuff. I mean, they didn't tell you how Reed and
mhm.
Victor met.
Right.
You don't get like a ton of background about the fact that he's like the leader of Latveria. They call
Mhm.
him Highness, and they're doing his bidding. You're like,
Right.
okay, well, they must work for him.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
it was kind of nice how they didn't feel like they had to shove all this backstory into for us to
mhm.
say, okay, this is who this is. We could get those little pieces and
I
put it
think the
together
hope
nice.
too is that some majority of the demographic just knows the subject matter. If you're
Mhm.
bringing somebody with you who doesn't know it, you're gonna like lean over and whisper to him and say, "Those guys went to school together. They've been rivals. You know, blah blah
Mhm.
blah."
Yeah. Yeah, sure.
And that's okay too.
Yep. And again, I appreciate in the Superman film and even in the previous Spider-Man films we just got, the newer ones, we didn't need an origin story. We get the character already there, they're doing their thing. I'm good with that. And I think Fantastic Four is okay to do an origin story with
Yeah.
because they're not as universally known as Spider-Man or Superman or things like that or Batman.
But you can pick and choose what parts of the origin you do. Like,
Exactly.
you give us the transformation and them getting their powers because
Mhm.
that's important to
Right.
what they're gonna do. You don't have to say, "Well, Reed showed up at the Storm boarding house on this day, year, whatever,
Right.
and this is the first time," like,
Yeah.
there's only so much.
Yeah. Yeah, and I appreciate that this film tried to create, some form of coherence with how all these characters come together,
Yeah.
but I don't think it was necessary. I think if he just met Sue at college, or some that would have been more than enough for us to have. I think the boarding school thing was just a little weird to try to put
I
that
I
in.
mean, my takeaway on that was it was all based on like the every 10-year comment. So they gave us the previous scene,
Mhm.
and if
Yep.
they had already been of age, then they'd have had to make them even older. So that was kind of like their backfill on that. They're like,
Mhm.
hey, we have to justify this asteroid story in the
Mhm.
past 10 years and then the future 10 years. So here, let's give you a little bit of like, hey, these people are interacting and knowing each other. So 10 years from now, it makes sense when he comes knocking on their door.
Right. Right. Sure.
Again, that was fine. It still like doesn't like it didn't like waste like a whole lot of time. I mean, like that's I'm thinking like the Alicia Masters like Mole Man thing was still only at like the 40-minute mark. You still had another, I don't almost an hour.
Mhm.
So
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. True that. I mean, it's good that they tried to use Alicia because she
hmm
is important to the Ben Grimm story, and
hmm
they tried to do the Ben Grimm thing, like where he turns back to Ben Grimm and then back to Thing. They did that a little bit. It felt a little bit, yeah. It didn't feel very fully realized. It just kind of happened. Then he just comes back and he's already the Thing again, and you're like, what? How'd you get back to that? What happened?
I was half expecting like Reed to right away figure out a way to like give him the ring or whatever,
The Thing ring, yeah. That, yeah.
just so they could like save on like practical makeup and whatever. Like, oh yeah, he's walking around. Oh, there's about to be a fight.
Thing ring,
See
do
him
your
from
thing.
behind, and then they cut to in front of him, and he's in the garb.
Right. They should have. It would have been
Yeah.
perfect for that. And
Yeah.
I know as as someone that, again, my introduction to Fantastic Four was with Herbie, the robot. I'm appreciating that he will be in the first steps.
hmm
So I'm hoping that they have some fun with that character, um, in this upcoming movie as well. Um,
Hmm.
I think too with looking at the different casting decisions they've made over the years of like Reed Richards, Sue Storm, and all those characters. I feel that this one has a good potential of being an accurate or a much more effective
This
cast.
one feels
And
like the most mature and the most
yes,
taken seriously cast.
yes, that's my biggest issue with the 2005 one is, it's the Corman one, fine. Yeah, there's no
I mean, they
rehearsal. He's
were
just
they were
trying to
pulling
put it
names
together.
so you would recognize them and go see the movie. I mean,
Yes,
like I can't remember if Scott Pilgrim would have happened yet, or if people would have had a reason to know Chris Evans. I mean,
right.
Michael Chiklis would have been coming off of The Shield.
Yes, or the
Um,
commissioner, one of those. Yeah, for sure.
uh, Jessica Alba was just kind of like one of the it girls at the
Yep.
time. I don't know about who played Reed
Ion
in that one,
Ion Griffin, I believe is his name. He's a
and he just
British.
passed, didn't he? Unfortunately,
I believe so. I think he did, which
it
is
was
crazy.
either the one from that one or the one from the next one. But there was a
Mhm.
Reed that passed because I know they said that like fans were like, "Oh man, I was hoping we were gonna get to see like a Council of Reeds and they were gonna bring them back."
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I believe he did just recently pass. I believe it was that
yeah,
one, and that's yeah, too bad because I didn't mind him as Reed, but I definitely felt he was too young for Reed. I
Uh-huh.
felt Reed always needs to be more mature. I did, and that's thinking about Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness when John Krasinski played him. I
Yeah.
loved that. I thought he was a great choice because I know the fans
And
were
if
wanting that.
Yeah, I was just saying, and of course they gave it to the fans for all of 5 seconds, and like, all right, now we're gonna look for a real Reed,
Right. Here,
and we're all
here's
like,
here's
why
what you've
can't
been
this be
asking.
real Reed?
I know I enjoyed him as not that I don't mind Pedro Pascal. He's wonderful. Um, but yeah, I really liked Krasinski. I thought he really looked and felt that part when he was just being there in that moment. I really liked seeing him there.
Pedro Pascal is the only acting or actor choice in this that I'm a little like suspect about.
Hmm.
Not because I don't think he can do it. The man has range.
Hmm.
I'm sure he'll do the job fine. I'm curious about what their motivation was. Was it like just legitimately like he's a great actor, let's get
Hmm.
him? I
Right.
hate to like
Or is he just
raise
because he's the hot actor of the time? Is that why we want him?
it, right, right. I mean, like that everybody's seeing him on Last of Us and other things. Cool, let's get him. Is it I hate to say the DEI thing, but is it that? I mean, like, I don't know.
Right.
Maybe I'll watch the movie and he'll just be great and it won't matter.
Sure.
I
That's the
might,
hope.
but I also may just be spellbound by. I think who do we have for Galactus? Is that Ray Fiennes?
Ray Fiennes is Galactus, which is
Oh
fantastic.
my God.
That's inspired casting right there for me. Anything Ray Fiennes does is so much fun to watch. He's just such a
Yeah,
charismatic.
I just
He
saw
just
him in
owns the
20
screen.
28 years later. He was
I
wonderful in
was
that.
I have not seen that, but that's great. I
It's
mean,
worth it.
just even seeing like that Clash of the Titans remake, which is just awful. He's wonderful. I could watch him and Liam
Mm.
Neeson just do their
he
scenes
also
together.
he also like earlier this year was in a he played Odysseus
Mhm.
in a movie that was literally just about the time after he washes back up on the shore of Ithaca.
Oh, no kidding. I haven't seen that one. That sounds
Yeah, and
great.
it's so weird because as you watch it, like some of the other versions, like very clearly they live in a world with gods and creatures and whatever, and he has a lot of conversations where they make you wonder, okay, was this a mythical thing or did he just fight people? We don't know.
Right.
But
That
yeah,
and
I could
also
just do an
thinking about
entire episode about Ray Fiennes.
oh, absolutely. I think about too, like there was a movie that came out late 90s. It was a remake of an old TV show called Avengers, not, the
Like the Steed and Peel.
yeah, Steve Bill
Yeah.
with Ray Fiennes playing,
Oh,
Steve
and Uma Thurman
Uma Thurman. Yes. The movie itself is not, it got trashed, it flopped, but I love watching it for Ray Fiennes.
controversial.
Oh, for sure. We could hit that one very easily. But Ray Fiennes is captivating and I love watching it because of Ray Fiennes. I could watch him in anything. He's a great actor.
I almost worry that he's gonna be so charismatic that I'm gonna be like, you
He's
know
got,
what, you can have the Earth.
yeah,
We don't need
right.
it.
Yeah, here you go. Take a bite. It's yours.
Yeah. Yep.
I could see that.
Yep.
I would definitely be just listening to him speak, his captivated by just his voice saying, "It's all yours."
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, but I again I think that yeah, I think you got to respect Marvel because for the most part they cast very well. Um the one thing I'm actually most interested in is how Robert Downey Jr. is going to be Doctor Doom. I'm fascinated to see how they're going to incorporate that into it.
I haven't seen him officially listed in the cast. I would be shocked if he's not in the movie, but I think
Mhm.
even though he's going to be Doom in Doomsday, I think they want you to not focus it on
Right.
him for this. I'm sure
Mhm.
it'll be like post credit or cameo
Right.
or
Right. Something very
minor
simple.
mention. I've also heard rumors that he's not going to be the Doctor Doom for their Earth, and he's from another
Mm.
Earth, and that's why
Yeah.
it's like multiversal stuff come the next
Okay.
movie.
That
So,
it makes sense. That would make
but
sense if
we'll see
Tony
how it
Stark
shakes out.
was a Doctor Doom of some kind. It would almost be like, interesting,
I'm not sure if we've heard at this point whether or not he's Tony Stark as Doctor
Mhm.
Doom or Robert Downey Jr. playing Victor Von Doom, just from a universe where
Right.
you know he looks like he's Victor who looks like Tony.
Yep.
So
Yeah. Well, I mean,
you
again,
just got to
I'm
wait for that
sure.
inevitable Spider-Man moment where the mask comes off and he freezes because he sees what's behind Doom's mask.
Yes, that's going to be a great moment if they use it properly. And with
Yeah.
the return of the those two brothers or whatever that directed Endgame
Oh,
and
Russo.
the Russo brothers, yes, directing Doomsday, I think that that's going to be wonderful. It's
Hmm.
going to be great. Um, Now, it just so would you, if you were to, if someone said, "Hey, would you recommend me to watch the Roger Corman Fantastic Four?" What would you tell someone?
Just in general, off the cuff, no context, or is there a reason I'd be recommending this?
Just if they said, "Hey, you know, I hear it's terrible. I hear it's this. You've seen it. Do you think I should put it on and watch it? I'm a comic book fan. I like these kind of, I love comic book movies. Would it be worth me watching it?" What
I
would you
would
say to
say
them?
that I would say that the 90 minutes that it's going to take you to start and finish this are not like, you're not going to walk away feeling like, man, this was Tommy Wiseau's The Room, and I can't get that time back. Um, but I would caution them, and I would give them realistic expectations. I would say just keep in mind when this came out, or when this was supposed to come out. It's because it
Hmm.
didn't come out, and
Right.
that the effects and budget, were reflective of the time, or even less so because of the
Less so,
fact that,
yeah.
again, they,
Yeah.
they, I'm sure if they had more money, it would have looked different. I mean, again, I know you said that like it probably would have happened in post,
Hmm.
you know, if the movie was actually hitting, but
Yep.
yeah, I mean, I'm really like stretching that out. I would probably say yes, and just tell them like, hey, listen, you know, just 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 keep in mind, you're not don't expect a 2025 movie. Just keep in
Right.
mind that you're watching a 1994 movie.
Yeah. A 1994 movie with such a low budget.
That it looks like a 1989 movie.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. Because I would recommend. I'd say, yeah, if you're just a fan of just anything comic books and you just want to just ingest and just take everything in,
Yep.
watch it just for the fun of watching it. Make it a
Yeah.
drinking game. Make it some sort of fun, party game with watching it with friends and just, just having a good time because
Yeah.
it's not there. It's not going to change your life. It's not
No.
going to make you, think. It's not going to make you, say, "Wow, that was."
I mean, it
That's,
definitely made me think. But I mean, I'm not having like Nobel Peace Prize thoughts. I'm
right,
having like, man, like they really just like slapped
what?
some like cardboard and painted it, silver, and slapped it on Doom's face. All right.
Right, yeah, yeah. Or you watch the spaceship in space, and it's like, is somebody holding a stick while they're
Or
shaking
are there
the thing?
like those invisible wires?
Yeah, yeah, yep. Oh, and when that
Yep.
ship, when they're riding in the ship and it's shaking, you're like, yeah, that looks really bad.
It really looked like they were just doing a side panel view of like the Power Rangers when they're in the
Yes,
middle of the Zords, and
yes,
there's like five of them there in their chairs.
yep. And they're like,
Yeah.
"Whoa."
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much.
Nobody could coordinate which way to go. They're like, whatever.
Yeah, but Fox was willing to give them a bigger budget. Although
Yes.
I think maybe Fox was literally just paying for distribution on those ones.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
I'm pretty sure. Yeah. But at the time that it was just the start of that comic book boom.
yeah,
X-Men was hot, Spider-Man was hot. So, hey, we're gonna put everything out there, that we can. Um,
couldn't hurt.
no, and I for one was always grateful because this was something as a kid I wished we had. We never got this sort of thing other than on cartoons on Saturday mornings. That was the best you could get on any of these characters. So being
Right,
able to finally see them realized in some way was always exciting. Even the Punisher in '89 with Dolph Lundgren or the schlocky Captain America that came the year after. I was excited to see any of those because it was like I'm getting to see these characters on, realized in real life, and it was always very
right.
exciting. So yeah, and that's why I would recommend this movie. I would just say, it's you get to see these characters. Yeah, it's not what you hope for, not what you expect nowadays, but for back then, it was exciting to know that this was out there and that it existed.
The upside with like seeing the new movie in like 3 days or whatever is like after watching the Corman one, like the bar is like set like here. So like I can't possibly go
You
anywhere but
could
up.
step over that bar. It's that low at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sets it fairly low. So you know that they've got a lot of room that they can certainly improve um
Hmm.
these characters and the stories that they're telling. I'm just
Hmm.
glad they're doing Galactus. They teased him in the second Fantastic Four movie in '07, and I was so disappointed we never got to see him. So this time we get to actually see him walking through the streets of New York City. So that to
I
me
think
is
I think they
awesome.
had no choice, given from what I remember hearing at the time was that like he was like a gaseous body.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
like Marvel's like, well, we definitely can't do that again. We gotta give him Galactus if we're gonna give him Galactus.
Yes. Oh, for
So,
sure. Because they all you saw was just the cloud with the shape of the helmet in
uh,
silhouette. And that's all you saw was a silhouette of that helmet, and that was it. You were just like, I want more. Because
yeah,
that movie was actually decent. The Rise of the Silver Surfer, because Doug Jones there was great as Silver Surfer. I thought they did a really good job in that one, but again, let us down because we didn't get a good Galactus.
right.
But yeah, so any final thoughts on Fantastic Four or any of the wonderful worlds of Roger Corman?
I think I think movies like that helped set the stage for what we eventually got. Because again, I'm not by any means saying it's like the terrible worst movie I've ever seen, but
Not at
obviously
all.
it had a lot of room to be better. And
It has its charm.
even yeah, even if they didn't necessarily improve with future Fantastic Four films, they improved with the genre. You know what I mean?
Yes,
Like
for
the
sure.
I almost would say that movies like Blade might not have happened if like trying a traditional,
Hmm.
set of characters like the Fantastic Four didn't sell for them. They're like, well, shit, we got to try something totally out
Yeah,
there. And who'd
I
have
think
thought
it was
the
a bold
first,
move.
yeah, who would have thought the first really successful Marvel movie was going to be Blade?
I never would have guessed it. If I was a betting person, I would have lost that bet.
Nope.
Um,
And I mean that franchise was great. I mean, some people will tell you that number three kind of sucked, and I mean, sure, I think Wesley Snipes was getting a little hoity-toity in the role, but I
Blade
would have taken
2,
as much more Blade as they wanted to give
yeah,
us.
I agree. Blade 2 is one of my favorite sequels. I
Mm,
absolutely adore Blade 2.
yeah.
Guillermo del Toro just nailed it. It was
Hmm.
to me, it was fantastic.
Yeah. But I
That
mean,
one I could rewatch over and over.
yeah, but again, moral is just that like something like that
Hmm.
probably wouldn't have even been able to be on our radar
Yep.
if
I
things
think
like
they had to. They
the
needed a
Corman
hit.
Fantastic Four didn't get attempted.
Yes. I think they realized we're not ready for that yet. So let's try something small. It worked.
Hmm.
Then they hit X-Men and it was like, boom, there we go.
Yep. And it just
We're on a
kind of was
roll.
a domino effect after that.
Yep. And it worked. And here we are with this great universe. So um
Yeah.
yeah, so for that for certain I will be grateful that there were always these attempts to try to make these films
Hmm.
hit or miss. So
Hmm.
at least with that we were able to get what we have now. And
Hmm.
that for that I'm grateful. All
Me too. And
right.
let us know down below if you've got
Yeah.
any ideas for things we should watch. I mean, obviously we've got our never-ending list of things that we can think of.
It grows. You don't realize how many are out there until we start talking. Like, oh my God, yeah, there you go.
Hmm.
There's a long list.
Hmm. But I
All
think
right.
that'll do us for this episode of Clash of Cinema.
Yeah. Stay
All
tuned
right.
for more.
Yeah. Stay tuned for the next one.